Sophie. I'm a senior graphic designer here at Furthermore Marketing. We have Caitlin. Caitlin is our social media marketing executive. We have Ella, she's our social media manager, and Alyssa, she is the social media team leader. So today we're going to be talking about apprenticeships and how to get into marketing. So Furthermore, we are a full stack marketing agency in Norwich, and we are results driven. So we always look at ways to measure success and demonstrate return on investment. We have specialists in graphic design and web design, a massive variety of skills at Furthermore. And the great thing about Furthermore is that everybody collaborates. So you're never just stuck in a box. You can always hear about the graphic design work. You can get involved in creative campaigns. We're very all-encompassing. So the reason we're talking to you today is that we have a new quarterly magazine coming out at the end of May, and this is called TONIC. And in TONIC, we are focusing on students, Facebook, and influencers for our first ever quarter. So in this magazine, we want to talk about what Furthermore Marketing are up to, but also talk about industry trends, all the sort of knowledge that marketers would need. So the reason why we chose students as our main topic for this quarter is that a lot of the staff at Furthermore are young, and we came from university, we have apprentices here, and so we feel like if we were in your shoes, it would have been really beneficial to have an agency come and talk to us about their experience and interview techniques and how to demonstrate your skills and transition into the workforce. So I'll pass over to Caitlin, who's the best person to talk about this.
Hi guys, I am Caitlin. So I am the social media marketing executive here at Furthermore. I'm actually a former ginger nut apprentice. So my tutor was Anna Gabali, and then I had the help of Peter as well, which was great. As I said, I'm currently the marketing executive here at Furthermore. I look after clients such as Toyota, Vauxhall, Nissan, Lexus, and even a small source company based in Zimbabwe. So the previous course that I carried out with Ginger Nut was the level 3 digital marketing qualification. I'm not too sure how many of you are doing that specific course, but I basically carried it out between the years of 2018 to 2020. And during the period, I was working with a small agency based in Norwich. So we did social media, email marketing, events management, web design, general design, that kind of stuff. So pretty much everything we did. I actually started as an assistant, and within a year of being with them, I got promoted to an exec. I did this through a lot of hard work, extra hours, that kind of stuff, and definitely putting forward loads of ideas and my having an opinion on pretty much everything. So yeah, that's pretty much how I got promoted really quickly, was just having that forward thinking, being really active. The course that I did, I don't know about you guys, but I found a few bits around the course quite challenging, but overall I really enjoyed the course, but a few bits were quite challenging. The bits I found quite challenging were stuff that I didn't really do in my day-to-day job. So for example, in my course, I had a coding section, and in my day-to-day role, I never had anything to do with coding. It was very much design, like client management, events management, that kind of stuff. So I never really had anything to do with coding. So when it came to that section of my course, I struggled quite a bit. I actually landed up failing my exam the first time round, which is great news. But the second time round, I had the help of Peter. So I asked Peter for a one-to-one. I had a few sessions with him where he explained to me in more detail what everything meant, what was going to be in the exam, what questions would come up, that kind of stuff. And having that one-on-one session with Peter actually is the reason why I passed that exam, is because he explained it really, really well to me. So if you guys ever have any concerns or any questions, something that you're really struggling with, definitely ask your tutors for a one-to-one, because they're always there for you to always help. So is my course relevant to my current job? So the role that I'm currently doing is social media based. So I'm a social media exec. And obviously my Ginger Nut course was specific to digital marketing. So it's not necessarily relevant to my role, but it is, however, relevant to my industry that I'm in. So I'm obviously in the marketing industry, so digital is very relevant to marketing. having that knowledge from my course, not necessarily to help my role, but it helps me understand what my colleagues are up to, have an insight into various roles and responsibilities. It also gives me the potential to kind of grow my role as well. So if I wanted to, for example, put together a newsletter for a client, because I had that training within my apprenticeship, I would be able to do that very easily. Or if I wanted to help out a web developer at Furthermore with some SEO stuff, I'd be able to do that because I had the knowledge from my course, which is very helpful. And then in terms of my advice for the courses that you guys are on, I'm not too sure if every course that Ginger Nut does, if you guys all have a hypnotic project at the end or not. But I found that with my course, when it came to the hypnotic project, my first instinct was to choose the topic that I found the easiest and I had the most experience in, which was email marketing. But after a lot of discussion and advice from Peter and Anna, we came to the conclusion that it would be best to choose the topic that was most foreign to me. This pretty much helped me when it came to the endpoint assessment. So basically the endpoint assessment, all they really want to do is tick off from your criteria what you've missed. And because I covered a section in my hypnotic project that I hadn't done before, it covered quite a lot of criteria, which made my endpoint assessment a lot easier for me. So yeah, that's the advice I'd give. If you guys have a hypnotic project, don't go for the easiest option. Always try and find something that you find a bit challenging and you can actually put your mind to. But yeah, that's my advice. If you guys have any questions or concerns, you can always ask at the end. But I'm going to pass over to Ella Shields, the social media manager for Furthermore.
Hello, would help if I took myself off mute. So I'm social media manager here. I head up a team of 6 now. It is extremely exciting. I started at Furthermore a year and a half ago. I came over, I actually transferred my apprenticeship over. And I've literally just completed it in January I completed it fully. So as far as that goes, it's kind of been a bit of a roller coaster, shall we say. I've jumped from a couple of different job roles. So now that we've come over here, I started off very low in terms of I was just kind of getting to do a couple of bits here or there. As opportunities arose, I then kind of welcomed them open-handedly, taking that on. It went from just being me to all of a sudden being able to have Alyssa, Caitlin and 3 others in this team, which is now delivering on over 50 roughly clients every single month. So as you can imagine, that's really exciting. We've roughly been taking on new members of staff every other month roughly. So clearly we've got something tapped and it's working quite well. Not to toot your own horn. So yeah, as far as the actual role, I've progressed from just delivering the accounts, doing a little bit of everything from my course. I did a digital marketing course similarly to Caitlin, however I did it through City College. As far as that goes, I've always been in the social media side of things. However, having an overall knowledge on email, a little bit of code, all that kind of jazz, PPC, paid, that's all really helpful because it all ties in. As you'll know very quickly from industry experience, any department you're in, so for instance, for just social, it always feeds into another department. It's always linked. It's never just standalone. So having overall knowledge of everything to be able to piece all the pieces together is crucial. Don't feel disheartened by that or anything like that if you don't have that already. However, just knowing a little bit of everything and then specialising in something particularly is great. It's great to be a master of many, but a master of one is also just as good. So yeah, as far as that goes, that's a little bit of an insight for you. To actually get onto this course, or why I chose to come through this route, I originally went from high school as quite a high achiever. I then decided to go to sixth form. I did business, graphic design and media studies for a year. I hated it. As far as that went, I think my attendance was probably around 60%. Hated classroom learning, was not for me whatsoever. On the day I was then supposed to enrol for my second year, I actually then found this apprenticeship at a local agency, Centre of Norwich. I then took on that and I was then taken on as a social media exec, as an account manager. So that was my first step into industry. The company, to say itself, I think became very clear after a couple of months that we were cheap labour. So as a little bit of a hint out there, there are companies out there that do like to take advantage of students, is what I would say. All the same, although they might be taking advantage, it's experience is one thing I would say. I learned the most from coming into that business, being chucked in the deep end, not having the support I needed and having to learn from myself. And from doing that, after 6 or 7 months, I realised, no, something right, I've kind of got as much as I can from this company. I then started reaching out. I then found Furthermore. I was actually referred. I was given an email address to the MD. I sent her an email kind of explaining my case, and instantly I got rejected. Said, nope, sorry, I don't take apprentices. As you can imagine, that's a bit of a knockback as far as that goes. However, from actually arranging a coffee to go and see face to face, explain the situation, straight away she bought into me. And as you can see, after 1.5 years, I've gone from an exec to team lead to now managing a whole department, which is growing in itself. I'm now responsible for being commercially viable, hiring, making sure that all the clients are happy, making sure they're on the packages that are correct, advising on strategy and things like that. So as far as that goes, you are not limited to your apprenticeship, is what I want to say. Yeah, okay, this whole time I was doing a course at the same time, but that has not affected my role in the business world whatsoever. It's a great thing to have going along, but you don't need to think that, oh, my course is 2 years, that means I've got to stay at this current role in my placement. That is not the case whatsoever. If you're hungry, if you're eager, if you're keen to do your own research, 100%, if there's scope there, prove it, is what I would say. A little bit of advice from me definitely would be a case of, if you see there's opportunities and things like that, don't ever go to your superior with a problem, go to them with a solution straight away. That's showing that you've done your research, you're interested, you're hungry for it, and you want to actually take it on and be responsible for it. From personal experience, that's what I did, and that's what got me to where I am now. So if you're interested, 100% go for it. There's no reason why you can't, and there's no issue in actually not knowing what you enjoy, what you don't like. That's the kind of the perk of the course, is what I would say, so that you get to kind of get a taste of every single thing. So make the most of that. Definitely use your tutors, like Caitlin said, to ask those questions. Any concerns or anything like that, you get them across straight away. Any support, webinars, seminars, all that sort of thing, do it in your free time, is what I would say. As you'll know from digital or marketing and things like that, it never turns off. It is not a job where you go there in the day and then you come away from it and it stops. Like with social media, for instance, we come away from our desks at 5 o'clock, but we know full well the content's going out over the weekend, is still going off in the evenings. You might be getting loads of engagement and things like that. It doesn't end. So as far as your interest in the industry and things like that go, I'd 100% say dedicate some of your personal time to it. So yeah, and as far as networking goes, I cannot preach enough. When I've been hiring and looking for people, if they've got an existing platform on LinkedIn, for instance, they've already been working on their personal brand, I'm straight away interested to see what they're doing, what they're about, what their interests are. People buy people through and through. So if you've got something to say it. As far as that goes. And everyone on your course right now is a really valuable connection. Start there. The people from mine and Alyssa's course, we were on the same one. I'm connected with all of those. I'm looking to work with one of them. I got Alyssa over from our company onto this one. We're networking with all of those constantly, because we all know we started in the same position and we're all working in different companies that can all come together in the industry to support each other. So you've got a really good network already that you probably don't even realise. So yeah, start from there and go from that. That is me in a wrap. Probably sick of my voice, so I'll pass over to Alyssa.
Hiya, I'm Alyssa. As Ella said, I'm the senior social media exec and team lead at Furthermore. So I've worked at Furthermore for just over 7 months, I want to say, and transferred over from the company that me and Ella started our apprenticeships on. So I completed a level 3 digital marketing apprenticeship, again with City College. When I did my apprenticeship, I worked as a social media manager. So that was doing things like creating social media content, working with different brands, dealing with clients. I did a bit of paid ads and a little bit of influencer marketing as well. So what I want to talk about today was the endpoint assessment interview, because this was the thing I probably felt most nervous about in my whole course. And I personally didn't get a lot of guidance with it. So I thought I'd just touch on my experience with the interview and help shed some light, hopefully. So my interview lasted about an hour and a half, and we mostly talked through my portfolio, to be honest. Like, the whole interview was just on my portfolio. So I was asked a lot of general questions on each of my projects, They asked me about the company I worked for, what they do. The lady asked about my day-to-day duties and things like that. She also asked a lot about the background of the clients I've been working with, which I wasn't expecting, and how I worked as part of a team within those campaigns as well. And then I was asked to talk through each of my entire projects start to finish, as well as answering a few questions about my synoptic project. And she asked me to elaborate on certain parts of that as well. And yeah, she asked me a few questions about how I manage my team, being a senior member of staff. So my overall responsibilities as a senior member. And I think that's one of the main reasons I got a distinction grade at the end, was because I spoke a lot about how I do more than a standard apprentice does. So I explained I managed a team, I helped train people up, I had a bit of input on company policies, and like Caitlin said as well, I put a lot of ideas forward, like went to my manager with ideas, and I think they appreciate that a lot. You're not just sort of sat in the corner doing the bare minimum. They like it when you come to them with ideas, and be sort of proactive. So anything you do like that is definitely worth a mention. She also asked a lot about the weaker parts of my portfolio. So for me, this was email marketing, because I didn't really do that in my day-to-day role. So I'd say definitely be prepared to talk about things you don't do every day as well, and make sure you have that overall knowledge of all the different aspects, so you don't come unstuck when they ask you about it. So yeah, my advice for the interview would be just to thoroughly read through everything. So anything you've submitted throughout the whole apprenticeship, definitely just read through it so it's fresh in your mind. I also printed out my projects and made notes on them of like which points to talk about and things I wanted to say. And I had that in front of me, because you are allowed to take notes into the interview. So I had tons of notes, so I didn't forget anything, and had like talking points and stuff. So I didn't feel so on the spot when she was asking me questions. So that's definitely something to do. So my overall advice would be, like on the apprenticeship as a whole, that although it can sometimes feel a bit overwhelming, like doing a course and working full time, because like Ella said, I know we're supposed to be apprentices, but most of us are doing a full-time role. But again, going back to what Ella said, I always just tried to make the most of it. So I asked a lot of questions, tried to get as much training out of my employer as possible, so that when I did finish my course, I'd have a lot of knowledge and experience to use when I wanted to apply for other jobs in that industry. I also made sure I took one day a week to do college work, research, whatever I needed to do, because that's part of the agreement when you're employed, or it was on my course anyway. When you're employed as an apprentice and you don't feel like you're getting enough time, definitely raise that to your employer. Or I actually spoke to my tutor, who then went to my employer, because my employer wasn't really listening. So yeah, talk to your tutor if you feel like you're not getting enough time, and I'm sure they'll be able to chat with your work if you need it. So yeah, essentially it can feel like a lot when you're doing a course and a full-time job, but now I've essentially got 2.5 years in the industry experience as an employee, rather than just apprentice that didn't have a lot of responsibilities. So again, what Ella was saying, always speak up if you want to progress in the company before your course is over. And then if you want to transfer and get another job, you've got all that like years of experience. I think that would be my advice. Yeah, I think that's everything from me. Sophie, are we going back to you? Anything else to add?
Nothing else to add here, but the floor is open for questions. So feel free to pop on your camera and ask anything if you need, or you can write in the chat. We are here if you have any questions. How did you manage work-life balance during the apprenticeship?
I landed up doing the majority of my apprenticeship in my free time, or even if I did my apprenticeship during a working day, I would do my work in the evenings. So that's probably not the best advice, but if you have a really good employer that lets you actually have time for your apprenticeship, definitely shut off at 5 o'clock. Like I have a problem where during COVID I would sit in my bedroom and work from my room, and I felt like that was literally tying my work and my life into one, which really wasn't healthy. So I've moved downstairs to the kitchen, and my laptop now stays downstairs. So at 5 o'clock I shut off and go back up to my bedroom, where it's completely separate. So my work isn't in my life, if that makes sense. I don't know if Ella and Alyssa have anything else to say. How did you guys do it?
As far as mine went, during the beginning of it, it was quite a tricky one where you kind of have that balance where you're learning, but you're still learning. You don't have all the information you need to be able to do the portfolios and be able to answer these questions and things like that. So I don't advise this. I left a lot of mine to the end. Which I then did pretty much have to say, look, I need to talk to my current employer. I then said I need to take a week to proper pencil it out and be able to pretty much just thrash through all these portfolios. I didn't do all of my portfolios at the same time. I did one of them a couple of months before, and then I did 2 back to back. But it was because of that I had a lot of information, and also for planning that, with all the criteria that you've got to cover, I actually took them out kind of like a high school exercise with a Pritt stick on a massive pad. I put all of them out, stuck it out, and writ down all the things that I've done to cover that, so I could really plan that out methodically, there you go, to then write that on a portfolio, and that way you just cover all of the bases really thoroughly. So it really does depend how you work best. If you're like a bit stressy when it comes to it, I definitely wouldn't recommend that approach, but I tend to work better under pressure, so it's what works for you.
How did you find the transition from being an apprentice and having that support to then being in a full-time non-apprentice role?
I can answer that one straight away. So as soon as I left my apprenticeship, I still stayed in contact with my tutors. So Anna and Peter, hence why Peter's here, I'm still in contact with him. So for example, when I was creating my CVs, Anna actually helped me quite a lot with putting it together. I sent her my CV and she completely tore it apart and gave me 101 amends to make. So don't feel like as soon as your apprenticeship's done, you cut it off and you're left alone, because you're not. You still have your tutors there to help you. Like Peter, like I feel like I can message him whenever if I have a problem, and he could definitely help me. But it's also about creating relationships with the people that you're working with. So the team I've got, Alyssa, Ella, Sophie, and the others, they're all really close friends of mine that I can literally come to with any questions that I've got or any concerns. So you're not alone.
Yeah, just to add to that, it is an absolute myth that in a full-time employment you should not have support and you should be able to do your job on your own. Like 100%, you should be leaning on your team. Your employer should actually be there to support you in anything that you need to upskill on or you're unsure of or you've not done before. It is not a case of while you're an apprentice you kind of like got a safety blanket, and then when you're not, you don't. That is not the case whatsoever. And if you're in a place where it is like that, I would be questioning the management personally.
Yeah, I literally have a mental breakdown to Ella at least daily. So if you have that type of relationship with your manager, you're definitely in the perfect role. But if you don't, then yeah, find some support somewhere else, I'd say.
How long did it take you to complete your apprenticeship and receive a distinction?
So my course, it got prolonged a bit because my employer wasn't really proactive enough as she should have been. So it took me a total of 2 years. So I started in December 2018 and I completed in August 2020. So just under 2 years.
I think ours was just over 2 years, wasn't it, Ella? We started and finished at exactly the same time.
Yeah, about 2.5.
Just over 2 years. But as I said, our previous employer wasn't the best at giving us what we needed. So I think that's why it took a little bit longer. And we didn't have stuff like this either to sort of help us or things like that. So yeah.
So how was it different to being an apprentice during a pandemic as opposed to a normal life apprentice?
Mine was only a couple months in the pandemic, so I feel like this doesn't really affect me that much.
I think ours didn't really change either because we were only in college for a couple of months, I think, and then the rest was online anyway.
Yeah,
for us,
progress assessor as well. He was still having Zoom calls every month. So the support from the college was actually really positive. Again, want to make sure you're still alive and breathing, and also checking up to make sure you're kind of getting cracking on your course. But yeah, ultimately your work days still carry on the same, and your apprenticeship duties, if you can't make them in your work time, you still need to be doing it in your free time. Kind of the same if you would be in uni or if you would be in like school or college. That whole research side of things still stays the same.
So what made your projects distinctions? Is there anything in there that you can really pinpoint down to being the success?
I think mine was having more responsibility than a typical apprentice, is what my tutor said. So like I said, I was getting involved like with my employer, going to my employer with ideas. I was managing a team and just being proactive, I think, and yeah, having more of a responsibility than a regular apprentice has. And I think, Ella, were you the same?
Yeah, very similar. I think the other things they said was about showing how you've really explored a various amount of skills and things like that in your projects, how they've had like different briefs, different needs, actually showing the success of them and how you evaluate that. The other thing is actually the whole methodology behind everything. So, for instance, with the when you did our marketing module, and we were taught the whole life cycle of the whole marketing mix and things like that. For instance, I applied that to social media on its own and said how the social media cycle, as a psychology standpoint goes, created your own graphs and things like that. So having your own take on that side of things and be able to give that, definitely I'd say go for it.
Yeah, I also dropped a lot of the knowledge module bits into my portfolio as well, like linking back, even though they were like 2 years before I'd had those lessons that I was writing this portfolio. I still dropped it in there because it sweetens them up, I think.
I feel like if you're currently in a role that's not very, like, it's not very high up, so you don't actually have a lot of stuff that you can get some variety from, I feel like definitely put yourself forward to your employer and say to them, oh, I really want to try this, or can I have a go at this kind of thing, or can I watch you do this, so you can actually have like some kind of insight into different stuff, even though it's not your main role. It's just, again, like putting in that extra work, just putting yourself forward a little bit more.
Yeah, I did a lot of shadowing as well off the back of that. Like I'd sit with Ella and watch her do training calls. I'd sit with the graphic design team and watch what they were doing. It doesn't have to be hands-on all the time. Yeah. Next.
Okay. This question is for Ella. How did you go about changing your apprenticeship, and how did you know it wasn't for you?
Yeah, so I came to a bit of a crunch with the course after, I want to say, about 6 months, where I was very much like, I can't see an end or what's really going on here. That was actually due to a staff member at City College, and also my employer at the time was, shall we say, not great as far as that goes for support experience. I realised very quickly I weren't going to be able to cover all of the modules from my current day-to-day role. So I did then start looking elsewhere. The reason I actually got in touch with Furthermore was purely so I could try and actually ask them if I could have a couple of days release in their company to learn some SEO. And from the back of that, we then got talking, then made a meeting. So yeah, off the back of that, I pretty much just said to my progress assessor, I am leaving this company. I'm moving to this one. And they then sorted all the paperwork out, just a bit of a transformation from there to there. It was really easy, to be honest. It was more or less just like going from one job to another, and there was a couple of forms you had to sign. But ultimately, as far as my portfolio went, I didn't write about any of my experience I had from my previous employer. I focused it all on Furthermore. So yeah, like that might be useful, might not. You can do a hybrid.
Okay, so how long after your apprenticeship did it take you to find a new role with a different employer? This one's good for you, Caitlin. And what advice would you give to apprentices who complete their apprenticeship and would like to apply for new roles?
So I completed my apprenticeship in August, and literally the day I got my certificates, I left my job that I was with. Don't want to go into it, but not a very nice place to work. So I left straight away. So I had my certificates and I left. And so that meant that I was trying to find a new job in coronavirus, which was a very risky move, but one that I was willing to take. So it actually took me 4 months to find a job after applying for roles over and over and over again. I actually, before I got a role with Furthermore, I actually got 2 jobs, one at Dunelm and one at McDonald's, just because nothing was really going well for me. I just wasn't really getting anywhere. And then Ella kind of picked me up and she was like, no, you're not going to work at McDonald's. You need to come work for me, kind of thing. So yeah, she kind of just picked me up like that, because I had actually applied in September and I didn't get chosen. Someone else got chosen over me. But then I got re-chosen again in November. So Yeah, it was quite disheartening trying to find jobs in the pandemic, which is why I completely deferred from looking for marketing roles. I pretty much gave up and started looking for different roles in temporary jobs. But yeah, this one pretty much came through, which is great. I am actually working 2 jobs at the minute. So I'm working at Dunelm on the weekends just to get some extra money in. But yeah, in terms of advice for applying for new roles, I would say definitely try and stand out, whether that's your CV or making a good impression. Definitely stand out. Even if it's saying what your experience is, what software you can use, that kind of stuff. Just really make yourself stand out. And also, when it comes to making your CVs, what I can do is I can maybe send my CV out to all of you guys after this, but on my CV, what I had all of the software tools that I could use as well, because that actually is really attractive to employers. They want to see what software you're really familiar with as well, along with all of my qualifications, work experience, that kind of stuff. So yeah, just make sure you keep a note of every qualification you do, like even including your LinkedIn Learning ones, your Google Analytic ones, like they're still relevant, they're still a course you did, still a qualification. Just include everything on your CV.
Okay, so do you think it's a good idea to go to uni after this apprenticeship? I studied graphic design at university. I went to a London university and got a first class degree. Every job that I have applied to, I've been working with people that haven't gone to uni. They've been apprentices, they've come straight from college, and they're doing the same job and they're working just as hard, and they've been there longer and they've had so much more time in the industry. I mean, university was great for student life and learning how to be an adult and live by myself. But for the amount of money that you pay and the stuff that you learn, I feel like when you're in industry and you're actually working there, it's so much more valuable. It's up to personal preference, but you always go to university if you want to do a specific thing, something that requires a lot of further study, or you need a degree for that job. But definitely in general, if you're a graphic designer or you're in marketing or social media, I would say just go out and do it. Just go out, grab a job, go out and do it, because university for me wasn't all it was cracked up to be. But I mean, look at me now, it's fine, do whatever you want.
You do.
When I was actually applying for roles over the 4 months when I was unemployed, I would always ask the questions to whoever was interviewing me, saying, "Do you think I should have gone to uni? Do you think it would have been more valuable for me?" And I kid you not, every single person that was interviewing me was like literally, what even is a degree anymore? Like, we don't care about degree. All we want is experience. Like, you guys doing an apprenticeship right now, you're getting all the experience that you need, and it's very, very, very attractive to employers. Also, in terms of uni, so I'm 21 now. I'm a marketing executive, and literally all of my friends are all still stuck at uni, paying debt, literally partying every weekend, not getting any sort of income. Like, they're all years behind me, and I'm an exec earning money, like working a 9-to-5 job, loving life. So honestly, don't feel like you have to go to uni, because schools do put a lot of pressure on going to unis because it makes them look better. So don't feel like you have to.
I don't know about you guys, but when you were in interviews, I don't think I was ever asked to further explain my university. They never asked what grade I got. Nothing. The whole time I was in interviews, it was portfolio. They looked through it. They asked me to talk about it. They asked me about my likes and interests, but my background in education never ever came up. And I've now had 4 different jobs in industry, and it was never an issue. So you're just going to university to get that sort of that label. I would definitely rethink it.
Yeah,
But obviously, do what you want.
do what you want, but I feel like it's exactly the same with sixth form. Like, every job interview I went to, nobody ever cared what subjects I studied at sixth form. I feel like it's the same for uni. Like, no one really cares. Like, oh, it's a nice thing to say you've got a degree or you've got a master's, but it's just, I mean, it's attractive, but it's not as attractive as an apprenticeship, I don't think.
Any more questions? Nope. Right, should we leave it there? I think that's been really helpful, and we've chatted enough for your Friday afternoon, but thank you so much, guys, for coming and listening to us. And if you do have any other questions that pop up, please just email us, and yeah, we'll get back to you. And yeah, check out our social media, interact with us. We're all here for you.